it is interesting that I think for most of history, we've always worshiped something. And for most of the time in human history, it was worshiping some version of nature. And then there's been a transition of, not getting to like modern religions.
Or even worshiping like a Greek god and stuff. Sometimes they were associated with weather or nature.
Typically.
Or something like,
yeah. Yeah. Or emotions. Mm-hmm. So it's just another way of like understanding the self and understanding a reality. I think it's like really beautiful. And I think modern religion is really powerful as well. But it can be a little coercive and be a little like shameful and be, that's when it starts to get a little
Do you think
funny.
sometimes that's a positive thing?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, to have shame about doing something that hurts somebody else is positive. I think like net positive. But I believe that if you allow a person to exist without coercing them into doing things, it feels better for them to quote unquote do the right thing.
Rather than they feel that they must do it because it is a rule that they have to follow. Correct.
And so if I am imposing, my demands upon you, I think there's a natural, like I got this from Gabor Mate. He does a thing. Mark, can you give me your hand? So just put your hand out. So just put it out like this. Yeah. So if I go like this, what do you do?
And push up.
You push up.
You're pushing down on my hand, I push up, yeah.
Yeah. Right. And so I think that's the natural nature of the human is if you allow me to be with my hand, just like, cool. Like here we are with hands. But the moment that I push into you, your natural reaction, I'm pushing like, cool, like I want you to go here. Your natural reaction is like, cool, I'm going to push just directly in the opposite direction. I'm going to push right back into you. Mm-hmm. And so, I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think about, like, do we need rules to be morally good?
Well, I think in some cases, like, I think that's originally how we got here in the first place in terms of religion. I think people used to haphazardly run amok and fuck each other's significant others and things like that before there was like marriage.
Yeah.
Somebody would clearly be with somebody else, and I think that there was shit like that going on. And I think somebody somewhere along the line said, we need to like stop this. We need to like be together more and make some sort of like unity, and like you can't be involved because it to me, it's clearly like made up. Maybe some other people believe it comes down from an actual religion or comes down from an actual God. But in my opinion, it was made up by humans where we decided that this was going to be something that we were going to do because it wasn't working previously. So we had to make rules around it. Mm-hmm. And we had to make shame. Like, no, you did that with so-and-so and that's his girl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's not right and that's not correct. Making rules about ages and stuff like that. Ages that people can have sex with each other at certain ages, right? Like there's certain things that are appropriate and there's certain things that are inappropriate. And I think that we probably, somewhere along the lines, people were fucking shit up.
Yeah.
People were messing things up. And so I think you had to make some rules. And then once you have rules and or laws, and who knows how they treated people if they committed a crime on some of these rules or laws that they made in various religions, or even just rules or laws they made in various towns. But I think they decided that they needed to have specific rules. And then I think you might come across other people as you're traveling and they have completely different rules, and completely different laws, but you're trying to pass through their territory and they're saying, you're not fucking doing this bullshit in our area.
Yeah.
And it's not even necessarily their area because the world is not built with borders, but these are all man-made things.
Yeah.
And I think there's shame and restriction and law. It's going to kind of be there anyway, but I think that it can work. I think there's concern over not having religion. I think there's concern over not having marriage. I think there's concern over not having school the way that we have school now. It's pretty clear that none of those things work 100%, but I think there's a lot of people that believe that they work well enough to continue onward with them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there would be movement for more change, I believe.
Well, things change. It's changed slowly, and they change a lot slower the bigger the population gets. And that's I think that's where it's for at an individual level. I think the most important thing people can do is make the best decisions for their family and not just be like minions of the higher ups, and like whatever the commercials say, whatever the FDA says, whatever the government says, whatever CNN says, whatever Fox says, it's like, get out of that. Like that's not the spot.
I mean, I grew up Christian, and there are many aspects of Christianity that I truly appreciate. It's kind of interesting because Christianity gets shit on a lot, and no one really bats an eye. Like, there's one interesting thing.
It's because it's the most popular.
I understand.
It's like LA. LA gets shit on quite a bit. It's like, well, it's kind of like has the one of the strongest magnets of a geographical location on the planet. Yeah. So it's going to get shit on.
Mm-hmm. And I do understand it because there are things that I truly disagree with within, and I haven't gone to church in quite some time, in many years. I'm also, I think that a lot of other religions have there's a lot of cohesiveness and things that are parallel through other religions that I think when you say you're Christian and then you hear somebody else is something else, sometimes there's a disdain for that, or there's a belief that is wrong when it's not necessarily that way. But there's a big power in religion. And I'm not saying that people need to have religion, but I think about the ability for someone to have a community.
That's it.
And think about this. My grandma was 100 years old. She came here to take care of us in 1990, but that woman has never missed a day of church since she was a little girl. She always had a community to go to. Do you have a community that you've been able to go to for a decade or more, that you consistently gone to and had people that were all together? Have you ever had anything like that?
The gym.
The gym. Okay, so there's the gym. Good, cool. So yeah, that's good.
Or jujitsu.
Becomes
a family.
But you think about certain individuals that have that they have a community that they go to every single week on the same day. They do whatever they do. They talk, they eat, they do whatever, and then they do it the next week. I think that's one of the big, powerful things that can be of a benefit of whatever you choose to practice.
I think it could be huge.
You know what I mean?
And in church, instead of talking about the weight and the reps and the sets and body fat percentages and muscle mass and the diet, which can all be viewed as being healthy things, talking about more like morality. And, grandma might say, oh, I'm having trouble with my grandson, and doesn't look like he's getting into the right stuff. And
I'll pray for Nsima.
And somebody, and my dad will say, I'll pray for your son. I understand.
Yeah, right. That's an extremely.
And you get to talk about it and talk through it, and what are some ideas that might help us past it and through it.
Power Project family, how's it going? Now, we talk about sleep all the time on the podcast because it's one of the biggest things that helps you with your health and fitness, your recovery, your muscle gain, your fat loss, everything. That's why I've partnered with 8 Sleep for such a long time now, because the technology behind the mattress allows you to track your heart rate, the amount of times it takes you to fall asleep, your tosses and turns, your heart rate variability. It changes its temperature through the night based off how you sleep, but not only yourself, but maybe your partner on the other side of the bed. It is an amazing mattress. Andrew, how can they learn more?
Yes, head over to 8sleep.com/powerproject. That's 8 spelled out, EIGHT, sleep.com/powerproject. Along with more information, you guys will actually save $150 off of your entire order automatically. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
And get out of the I've heard from somebody else as well. Like we've transitioned from communism into, eventually we arrived here at individualism. So communism is like the other side of individualism. So there's benefits and detriments to both. Mm-hmm. But presently, probably more than ever in history, we're the most individualistic.
At least here.
In Western culture with cell phones and Facebooks and TikToks.
Yeah.
Like you are staring at yourself more than has ever happened in history. Yeah, it's crazy.
Me and my girl were just talking about that. Like there are mirrors, but the phone in and of itself, like looking at yourself a lot.
A lot.
It's kind of
Let
weird.
me, when you go to your Instagram or something, you're like, let me check in on myself.
Oh yeah,
and you're sitting there hanging out with
I'm
yourself,
my biggest fan.
And you just made a post 10 minutes ago. And you're like, I got to check in on that post that I made.
Yeah.
There's
See
that,
how it
but but then also you go to like your whole profile and like, if I'm someone brand new, what does it look like when they see
What's
my
this
page?
like? Yeah. What's the user experience for me?
Yeah.
It's
really weird.
strange. And that's incredibly lonely. And that's the irony. I would think it would just make sense.
Imagine if you did it physically.
Mm.
Imagine if you did Instagram physically.
Mm.
You said we're all meeting up at this coffee shop, and people kept coming in, and they're like, "I don't like your shirt," and they leave. And the next guy's like, "I think that shirt's actually really cool." And the next guy leaves. The one guy pushes a button on your shoulder and gives you a little heart, gives you a like.
Yeah.
Your hat is ugly.
Next person just looks at you and walks away, no comment.
Well, we do that in real life.
Somebody
Like,
runs in and says,
what-
I can't believe you gave that shirt a platform.
That's awesome.
And it's just, but
Yes.
it's good.
Sorry to be to cut you off. I just knew I was going to lose that.
No, that's good.
Well, it's
Yeah.
just like an amplification, right? Because in real life, when we do that, like in the course of a week, it's probably fairly common to maybe run into, I don't know, 30, 40 different people.
Yeah.
Like that's probably kind of normal if you're someone that is going out and you're out and about. 30 people maybe you interact with. I don't know.
Or like the Dunbar number. I'm sure you guys heard that before.
150 or something.
150. Yeah, that would be like, and I believe that relates to the amount of primates that would be able to actually keep track of grooming each other. I think is how they get into that. And once it goes beyond that, so it's like we can't keep track of this anymore. But that now you look at your social media stuff, and it's like, cool, I follow 5,000 people, and I'm followed by however many thousand people. It's just very strange, but we still have those reflexes to care about people's perspective of us, and it's still like a deep, maybe not meaningful, but it feels meaningful threat for someone to not accept us. So you're putting yourself, and then you have the comparison game is freaking dangerous, man. And you get into a place where people are starting to develop, there's like names for, I don't know what it's called, something along the lines of like TikTok filter syndrome. It's not that, but it's something like that. There's maybe you could look up, you could look up if you want. But we start to see ourselves in this image, but I see myself for 75% of the times that I actually see myself, I have this like glittery, beautiful, perfect summer Hawaii filter over my face.
Yeah.
And now I get accustomed to that. Like, I love that. That's what I like. And then you come out of that and you're like, oh God, what is this? And now you're like, oh shit. I've kind of almost created like a disassociation for myself in a way.
Yeah.
There's a thing around, have you ever heard the term interoception? Interoception is like the way that you feel internally. So proprioception is like musculoskeletal movement, like your ability to dance and stuff like that. Then interoception is your ability to feel like, I feel hungry. I feel my heartbeat. I feel like all the internal sensations. And there's been some research that I was reading about last night, actually, of people that have lower interoception. One of the interesting, actually cool exercises that I'd recommend people try, just because it'll calm you down. It's real nice. Is you can set a timer for a minute, and then you can. It would be not necessary to do it right now, but you can set a timer for a minute, and then you listen into your heart rate. So you feel your heart rate, and then press the timer, and then count how many heartbeats transpired in that minute. And then you do it again, and you actually take your pulse. And then you measure like how close was I with that. And that would be one potential exercise, or if you were doing like a research study with measuring a person's interoception, that'd be one way to do it. But it will calm you down in a really beautiful way. But what the suggestion in this study that I was reading about last night was that people that measured lower interoceptive scores would have a higher likelihood of having like eating disorders, and also just general like dissatisfaction with their body. Whereas people that have a very good, like open, interoceptive relationship with themselves, things work better, and they like themselves more. They like accept themselves.
Yeah.
And they don't have issues with food and things of the sort, because they actually have a more conciliant relationship, like with themselves, which is an odd thing. It gets into very, like woo woo, Venice, California, nebulous, like not like whatever, bro. Like I have a buddy, he says that I like, is like, when you're talking about something, it's like, does it grow corn? It's like, great, we can space out about all this stuff, but like, does this actually move the ball forward? Or are we just like intellectually wanking ourselves together? And so that's one of those things where it's like, oh no, like you having like a meditation practice or going swimming and just paying attention to the quality of your movement, or lifting weights and paying attention to the quality of, like, actually paying attention. That was more Arnold Schwarzenegger stuff. It's not you have headphones in and you're checking your messages and you're just trying to like get a quick pump in. You're putting your mind in the muscle. That mind-muscle connection, it's supportive not just for growing bigger muscles, recruiting more motor units, but it's also supportive for literally having like a deeper, more comfortable relationship with yourself. Yeah. You say stuff like that, it's like eye glaze, eyes rolling back, like, oh my God. But like it's science, like it's real shit.
I don't buy any of this. I think you're way better off being super worried about the end of the world and World War III.
Well,
getting really mad about it.
That's the mofo about news. Like so think what people are doing now, which is why it's such like a absurd, I'd say kind of like privilege in a way, to freaking have a conversation that people listen to. Because literally what people are doing in a way is they're like leasing out their consciousness to this conversation right now. So you're saying, cool, like I'm gonna have my day, do my things, whatever. I'm just gonna kind of like, I trust you guys, the four of you, to borrow my mind.
Take my brain and play with it like it's silly putty for a little while.
With it, right, exactly.
And Nsima's making dinosaurs and shit.
You're going too deep right now. You're about to make us lose our audience. You better stop right now. I'm joking.
Yeah. But so within that, it's like, okay, interesting. So we're kind of like leasing this thing out for a second. What the hell is the news infusing into your leased out mind? Fear, threat. Why do they do that? Like this is I'm not like discovering this. This is very obvious and everyone said it.
Hey, I know you guys enjoyed the video, so like, comment, subscribe, and head to the Power Project Discord below. Talk to y'all later.